human perspective.
Welcome to Unbiased and on the Fence. I've got wonderful guest Candace Craw-Goldman to join us today for the BQH birthday. Welcome, Candace. You don't know? Oh, they started making the silent ones, I guess, huh? So it doesn't. I had you muted.
There's no noise here. Should I say, yay? I brought you one. I brought you one. Let's see.
So, wow. I was talking to you in email and I was like, on one hand, it seems like it just started, when you think, wow, it's been a year already. But then on the other hand, I think of all the good that people's gotten from it. And it's like, wow, it's only been a year. It's strange how you can switch your perspective a little bit. And it's completely different. So depending on how you look at it. But I've seen it help so many people. And so many people have taken the course and had sessions. And it's really a beautiful thing.
It's crazy. I know what you're saying. Somebody in our support forum community this morning said, oh, wow, I thought BQH had been around a lot longer than that. And two things occur to me when I'm thinking about that. Number one, this idea of time collapsing, right? We talk about this all the time. And the now moment, yes, it was a year, but yes, you can feel both things. It's more about the living in the now. That occurred to me. And the second thing that occurred to me was, I really had to laugh because, the entire concept of BQH is bring all of you to a session as a practitioner and bring an open mind, all of you as a client. Don't come with somebody else's expectations or somebody else's idea of what should happen here, which is basically you communing with your essence. And what could be older than that, right? This is like, we're talking about, so in essence, in heart essence, it's just remembering what we've always been able to do. And I just want to say, just give yourself a chance to go do that now. And don't do things because other people tell you to or how to do it. Do it the way it works.
That's a great point. And, that's a great segue into sort of what was the big surprise for me with taking the course and being a part of doing these sessions and everything. At first, I felt like I had to do it. Like it was, but once you do these sessions, you realize that you're just trying to help the client get out of the way, right? And sort of get out of their left brain, just tell you what they're seeing and allow the higher help, the higher guides to come in and do the journey. I don't have to do the journey. And that's sort of where I was surprised at how little I have to do. You know what I mean? I don't have to make anything happen. I just follow the program, trust the way it works, and and help the client get out of the way. And I think expectations is a huge block for people because you watch YouTube and you watch like Alba Wyman has all these great videos. I love watching her videos. But she puts the best of the best on there. Just like I do. If it's sort of personal and it's not, it doesn't apply to the broader audience, I won't put it on YouTube because it people wouldn't enjoy watching it. But, I've had sessions that, 3 hours long and the person gets 3 words, but they got something out of it that led to more information. But that's, 3 hours for 3 words wouldn't be very good to put on YouTube is what I'm getting at, So people get what they need, and if they can get out of the way, that's sort of the whole thing is getting out of the way, not over-analyzing things. Analyzing things is really a huge block for people, or just performance anxiety. People get so excited, it's hard to relax for the session, But it works out if you can sort of let it be, just stay out of the way and say what you're seeing and all of these things. These are all tips, I think, that have helped my clients a lot with actually having a good session.
Well, as you're speaking, I'm thinking of the concept of transparency. Not only the now moment is so much a part of life and reality these days, but transparency. So, even the queen of all of this, Dolores Cannon, she wrote more than 20 books. I guarantee you those 20 books the sessions in there are the best of the best. My own personal session never made it into one of her books, and yet it was astounding to me, changed my life. I'm still being informed by it. She talked to me about it a little bit, but it wasn't, it didn't break any ground as far as where her books were being for it to be included anywhere. It was highly personal for me. And yes, this is really important. And it's one of the 9 videos that I've made for the birthday celebration of the first year of BQH that I call Get Ready. And I definitely want to go through those different videos. But one of them is absolutely about expectations. And in that one video, which I'm releasing 1 or 2 videos every day from now to the 9th. So the introduction, and then the one we call Intentions is up today. And then later on throughout this week, I actually talk about as a topic expectations, because they make such a big difference. And I bring up 2 stories in this short video. And these videos are so short. They are 3 to 8 minutes each. There's just 10 of them. And anybody who's interested in doing any kind of quantum healing session, any kind of past life regression, any kind of guided visualization, anything like that, can benefit by just watching these easy to watch, all collected in one place videos. It's at quantumhealers.com. It's all completely free, of course. But the one about expectations, I'm not going to give anything away because it's all going to be up there, but I'd be happy to tell you about the 2 different kind of expectations that came out in this story. And one was a woman, I've mentioned this before in other shows and other places, and I'll just be very brief. She was a well-known professional psychic who came, and she had these giant expectations about what was going to happen. She had communication with what she called her cosmic family, her soul level. This was a number of years ago, I believe. It was near the 2012 change point of humanity. And she was, I'm going to meet my cosmic family. I'm going to get these specific downloads. I'm going to be able to, I don't remember, but it was something along the lines of I'll bilocate, I'll do this. She had this very, very specific thing that was going to happen for her session, this very specific. And I was trying to, I'm like, oh, slow down, lady. I'm glad you're excited, but it doesn't always work like that. And, I tried to get her to consider the fact that she can think about these things and we can ask about these things, but that may not be what shows up in a session. She just, she just wasn't listening. She was just determined. And in this session, she lived a very plain, very miserable, very hard life as a small girl who was hungry and didn't have any parents and had to find food and had to live in a outside pen with livestock. And it was just a hand-to-mouth kind of existence where everybody around her was also struggling just for food and shelter. And her higher self actually came through beautifully. And she was one of those people. I don't know if you've had sessions like this, Shane, but she was one of those people who absolutely remembered every lick of the past life self. And then when the higher self comes in, she really didn't remember any of that part. Some people remember. That's
weird, isn't it? That's strange.
Really
and the voice will change sometimes too.
Oh gosh, will it ever?
That's cool too. I love that. I'm like, wow. It's amazing, I
got some great stories about that one too. Yeah, but so she got to this part and she didn't remember that at all, but her higher self came through, and it was one of those. I haven't had one for a long time that was this chastising, and it was very much like a stern parent. And the higher self said, she's human. She's spending all this time leaving her body, astral traveling, talking about, Arcturus and the Pleiades and doing channeling and all this. She's doing all of that's fine. It's very exciting. She is neglecting her human self, her human body, her human way of living, her human family, her physicality on the planet. We wanted to show her this lifetime where that's all she had to focus on. And it was very difficult. It's not this difficult for her now. She has food, she has shelter, but she's still neglecting herself. And it basically, gave her a scolding. She didn't remember any of that.
Aren't you glad it came out of her mouth and not yours?
I know. She didn't remember any of that. And she sat up and she basically just went straight back to her conscious mind. And she was just like, she basically said something along the lines of, I drove 500 miles to have that happen. And she was really upset at me. And I'm looking at her thinking, dude, you just got the greatest gift. When you listen to this, you're missing a big part of your life. I have no idea if she ever listened to her session. All I know is I'm not really, but figuratively, she slammed the door on the way out. She was not at all happy. So she had this expectation, right? And it didn't pan out that way. From my perspective, it was a great session.
Yeah.
Well, I had this other guy come, and he came. I remember he was like a long distance truck driver dude who was based in Iowa, near like almost the Canadian border. He was way up there. He was just way up there by the lakes or something. I don't know my geography very well, but I remember it was winter, and he came down and he drove all this way down. And I talked to him as I talked to everybody about expectations. I know you've read the books, I know, and here, and this guy, even though he'd never done anything like this, he was so brilliantly open to, I'm just sure this is going to be perfect for me. Whatever happens, it'll be fine. I trust you. I believe in this magic. I trust myself. We'll just see what happens. I mean, he went into it like that, completely open. And then Shane, he was the kind of guy who got no words, just like your 3-word client. He got less than 3 words almost. He spent the entire time laying there, and it was something along the lines of, well, now it's happening. Well, now purple colors are washing over me. Mm-hmm. And so we did that for a while, right?
Right. Yeah, I've had those.
And now blue colors, and there's some kind of other blue light. I mean, we did all this color, and then all these different colors, basically a color bath he got, and tried to bring forth his higher self, his wisdom team, his healers. We requested it. I asked him to use his imagination. He could do all of those things prior to the session. And the best that he could ever tell me was, he said, I just get the feeling they're telling me to trust and that the answers will come. Now, these are things you, me, your entire audience have read in articles and in memes and in all these things forever and ever. And you're like, right? I mean, you kind of roll your eyes. It's like, he drove 800 miles for this, I mean, right? But here's the thing. The feelings of those colors, he felt them and I felt them. And when he sat up, he said, well, I don't know what that was, but it felt good. And I still trust that it's all going to work out. And he just had this fantastic attitude about it all. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't right. If somebody would have made a YouTube of his session,
oh yeah,
I see purple, nothing else. I see blue. I mean, the YouTube views would be in the single digits, maybe, right?
Right.
People would be going, "What is this?"
Why did you post this?
No story, no, nothing entertaining or anything. But he left. And it felt good, and he felt good. He's like, I felt the energy, and that's good enough for me. Mm-hmm. And off he went on his drive. Well, that's not the rest of the story. So the rest of the story comes a couple of days later. And he got on the phone, and he was talking to me about this happening and that happening. And the kind of things that happened were, of course, he had his list of questions, right? Mm-hmm. And every one of his questions that didn't get directly answered in a session were answered from his drive from Kansas back to Iowa, every single one of them. Some of them were answered. He was like wondering, I don't know, how long it was something like this. How long should I remain, in this position? And then a license plate comes up and says 5YRS or something,
Right.
And he's like, whoa. And he started opening up to this. And so he mentally went through his questions while he was driving back. Every single one was answered by something, a billboard, a song on the radio. And then there was this. The very best thing that happened was he stopped. I believe it was in Iowa itself. He stopped in a truck stop, went in, was heading into the restroom or whatever, into the truck stop, get a cup of coffee, whatever it was. Some guy on the way up, or it was a woman, I don't even remember. So many years ago, I don't remember, but a person came up to him while he was walking and very tentatively said, "Excuse me, I hope you don't mind, but I have this message for you." And the message was, it was just 2 or 3 sentences, but it ended up with him thinking that like his own guardian angel embodied in a human form, just to look at him in his eyes and give him that message. And I remember him saying he just stopped in the parking lot and the person gave him the message and he was just like, person walks off and he's standing there holding his coffee for the longest time, absolutely stunned. And he was thrilled about all this. So he believes, and of course I believe it too, what he went through coming down here, going through the process, entering into the trust, connecting energetically in and with these other realms, with support from a practitioner who's open and excited about this as well, because my own energies assist. That's what holding space is. Something about the combination of all of that allowed all of that to orchestrate so that every answer came for him, but not in a session, not right over there in my sleigh bed, but in his truck on the way home in the next 2 days of driving.
Yeah, and I often tell people, like, keep your eyes peeled, especially if they didn't get all their questions answered. Because a lot of times if they're not saying anything, I'll tell them just think about the question, and I'll say the question, and like, just think about it for a moment, see if anything comes to you. If not, your intentions, because, you can only get so much through video and audio. There's so much going on energetically that we don't see, that can't come through a YouTube video. Yep. So just because it's not enough to put on YouTube doesn't mean there wasn't a lot of healing and clearing and things like that going on an energetic level. Right. And I had one client that English wasn't their first language. So what I found is they went in nicely, they got the visualizations, but as soon as they went to tell me, because they had to come into the left brain to sort of translate it into English, it would pull them out, right? So later on, after the session, she went and meditated on those places she went, and got the answers after the session. So I tell people, when the session's over, it's not over. Keep your eyes open, meditate on it later, and just be open to receive. Keep your eyes open, because a lot of times a message, like you were saying, the radio, billboards, license plates, bumper stickers, anything you can think of. It can be somebody walking by you and you hear a little snippet of their sentence. You're like, wait, what? That was completely the answer to the question I had. But it's a separate conversation. Have you had that happen? It's crazy.
I have. Yeah. I've told this session story before, but I remember having this particular session with a woman where all of her questions were answered to me as the practitioner in a very symbolic way by about 12 different kinds of interactions with animals on the way, from feeding my horses and dealing with my animals on the way in. I had all these different, these very specific, unique interactions with animals on the way in. And when she was here, I was like, do you like animals? I remember asking her that. She's like, not particularly. I mean, it was really strange. I'm like, well, I don't know what that was. I had a really interesting morning, but I'm almost certain what I had this morning experienced has something to do with your session. Now, she had this session and it didn't have anything to do with animals or any of the things that went on. But when we got to asking her wisdom team to come through, or higher self to come through, every one of her questions, in the order that I saw the animals, like I asked question number 1, and it was something about her, her body, and she really needed to move because that was the absolute root cause of the problem that she was complaining about, her physicality. Mm-hmm. The very first weird thing that I saw that morning that just, stunned me. I'm headed to the barn, and I got this long road and these paddocks over here on this side, and the barn's at the end of this long kind of, dirt road or rock road. And I'm walking on this road, and all of a sudden my horses are there in the paddocks, and I see this rabbit in the horse paddocks. There's nothing unusual about that. But it jumps up and it runs around my horse's leg and runs into the forest. Also, or tree line, there's no forest, tree line there. And nothing highly unusual about that, except for by the time I walked from the front of the paddock to the barn, it was something like 9 rabbits did that. And they all did the same thing. They ran around the horse's legs, and the horses were like, and then they ran into the tree line, like 9 of them. I mean, 1, okay, 2, okay, 3, what? I mean, I started counting them all. And the higher self said, this was a message for her. The animals helped to deliver the message. This was a message for her. She's not moving enough. She's not moving her legs. She needs to move. And when she moves and shifts up the energy, that it will fix the issue that she had. Every single weird thing that happened with the animals all the way into town. And even when I thought it was all over, I was like, well, there can't be any more animals, because that's the city limit sign. And I'm just coming in, crossing the railroad tracks. And that's when this giant, beautiful buck crosses. It crossed so close to my truck, and it had this giant rack of antlers that I could see the velvet on his antlers. It was that close. And he crossed. I was like, I've never seen a buck that big, this close to town. And that ended up being her spirit guide, her animal spirit guide.
Wow.
It was like, well, what about that? Well, she needs to know. I mean, it was crazy. So there's so many ways that the information can come. And so it's not just even you as a client being open. Your practitioner needs to be open as well. And actually, that's another one of the videos that I talk about. I talk about the client connections and the interaction and these expectations, your expectation and your client's expectation. Mm-hmm. And your intention and your client's intention. And these things combine in a beautiful way. So even if you have this massively open, heart and open mind to all of this, if your practitioner, let's just say for some reason, is in it for the wrong reason, they're in it because they want a cosmic adventure, because they want some sort of fame or some sort of attention, or they're just doing it, or the other end of the spectrum. Let's say they're doing it, I don't really believe this stuff works, and they're going into it with these real doubts about this is just hooey. If they've got that kind of tape rolling inside of them, that affects your session too. So Definitely. It's a combination of these two things. So this is why it's not always the practitioner with the most experience that's the best one for you to consider going to. That practitioner might be tired. They might have an agenda. They may be writing, I don't know, let's say a book about a certain, astrological event or something. And they may be pushing that, maybe they don't even know they're pushing that agenda in too much or whatever in a session. You need a practitioner who you truly feel has your best interest at heart, whether or not they've done 1 million sessions or just 2. If you connect with them, that's the important thing, because then you'll trust it. You'll trust them, you'll trust yourself, you'll trust the process. And that's the best we can do going into this.
Absolutely. It's not really much different than when we get, say, intuition about something, and then which comes through the right brain or the heart, and then your left brain will begin to overanalyze it. Like maybe you feel like you should tell somebody something, and then you're going to do it, but then your left brain kicks in, and it's like, well, they're going to think you're crazy. Maybe you just thought that up and it's your imagination. Maybe all these things that I see in sessions happen with just regular interactions in life when you get this intuition, and then you start to overanalyze it and unravel the download basically you got. And that's what you were just talking about, connecting with the client. One of the things that surprised me is that when you get into that meditative state and you're like, you've done the heart and mind coherence and you're connected with the client and you're in the session, you can get downloads. So I'll constantly be getting pictures while they're telling me things, and sometimes it'll be a different picture than what they're saying, but in a way that I understand it. And one time I said I see during the session, and then the higher self said, yes, you see. And then I realized, oh, you sent me that, kind of like emailing me a picture or something. It's just really wild, to see it work out that way.
It's great. I'm glad you brought up imagination. It's it's number 3 of our video series. We've been programmed since we've been children to discount our imagination, but it's a powerful tool. And I say it over and over again to clients. I say it in this video series, in our Get Ready video series. Your imagination is the language of your higher self. And if you go into a session really wanting an authentic session, and you think the way to do that is by tying your imagination up by the feet and hands and throwing it out the window, it's not going to work like that, because you need your imagination as a communication device.
Absolutely.
To make these things go. So this phrase, it's just your imagination, is just the death knell. And we've all been programmed. I mean, how many times in your life have you been told, don't worry about that. That's just your imagination. It belittles everything about everything, right? That's just...
And everything that was created or invented or anything all started at the imagination level. I mean, that's really your first step into manifesting or anything.
Yes, it is.
It's really important.
I remember getting real worked up one day, as I tend to do. And somebody said, I just made it up. And I'm like, well, of course you made it up. And God made you up. Everything's made up. This is all about making stuff up. Yay!
Yeah. To take a step back and go to the agenda thing and pushing agendas during a session, because I posted April's session, and I had to cut out a lot of gaps, because sometimes it's like 15, 20 seconds before they'll answer. You have to just give them time or whatever. So I went through and I cut all that out to make it shorter. But one of the things that I had to cut out, three different instances where I was pushing the agenda of trying to get her questions answered, right? She had this list. She was seeing all this stuff. Any opportunity I saw, I tried to get that question in there. The higher self would just completely ignore me. So in order to make it not confusing, it wasn't that I was trying to hide that. It's just that I asked the question, it was never answered. They went on with the journey. Like, look, we got our journey going on. You just shut up and let us do the journey. I almost felt like that. So I just cut that part out of it, not to hide it or anything, because I'm telling you guys now, but just because it would have made it confusing. Right. To listen to. But I tried, so in her copy, she sees how I try to get her questions answered. But, it was, they got their plan, they got their journey all scheduled out. And, if you go in there with your agenda and push too hard, all you're going to do is disrupt the process.
Yeah. That's always why I say, well, here's about how many questions people usually bring. And for goodness sake, as you're thinking about this, put them in order. I'll get to as many as I can. I'll combine them when I need to. We'll do what we can, but sometimes it works out just like that. I mean, remember my truck driver with the colors. Yeah. 0 questions got answered. 0, 0, 0 during the session. You just don't know. And it may have been, I really think about that guy a lot, because what he did, he was already moving towards trust in a complete way, because he was so pleasant and he was telling me that I'm going to trust. But what he did was he got rid of every shred of doubt and what happened in that session, my sense is, it's like he came fully into trust, right? He was almost there. And then with the session, he's like, I'm just going to go ahead and fully trust. And once he fully trusts, womp, it all just flowed in magically, brilliantly, beautifully. And that's not to say that that's going to happen for everybody. We're all on just a different journey here, but that's why these sessions are so fun and exciting to talk about all over the place, because there's so many perspectives, there's so many ways they turn out, and there's so many ways. Sometimes I get emails from people who say, you may not remember me. I had a session with you 3 years ago and nothing really happened till last week. And let me tell you what happened. And it just, you just don't know, right? So, I mean, are you going to give you, spirit, whatever, like, an expiration date on this session? No, it's just another piece of of the discovery process of the soul learning to, come into its full expression.
Yeah, just trusting you'll get the information when you need to get it, when you need it. And
Yep.
it's really about what you need, not about what you want. So a lot of the questions would be about what someone wants, but then they end up getting what they need, which, if they have expectations that they didn't let go, they might leave feeling like, it was a dud or something, but really they got what they needed for this point in their journey. And I think that's the important thing to focus on.
Yep. And, very few of those kinds of stories get on YouTube at all. I talk about a lot of them in our support forum because, of course, it's practitioner versus practitioner, and not versus, excuse me, a practitioner, speaking with and communicating with other practitioners. For goodness sake, there's no verses in there. Please delete that word out of there. Anyway, but I even did this with Dolores, and I continue to do this. There are some practitioners out there, many of them are very open and honest, but there's some who will only talk about only the brilliant, the wonderful, the exciting, the cosmic, or whatever, and they won't even address the other stuff. I kind of understand that. Look, Dolores Cannon did that. Her books, she didn't write one session really at all where it was a dud, except for one. And actually, there's one chapter in one place, and it's one of the few surviving videos we do together. And I do link to it in our expectations video number 8 in our Get Ready series. It's I read a passage from her book, and she actually talks about exactly what we've talked about here. It's one passage in one of her books about that you can only do what you can do for the client. You can't help it if they get upset. It was the only one time I've ever really heard and saw that she presented that to the public, that there was a client who was not happy. But I guarantee you it happened to her more than just that one time. And it happens to all of us who do this work for any length of time. There are people who, what was that?
Right.
I came here for that. I don't know what that was. You didn't. And then my favorite one, you didn't put me under. You didn't do this. And it's like, well, wait a second here. I can only do what I can do. And again, this is taking us right back to the Get Ready program, because one of the things that I do is I talk about in the 6th video, I call it Mythbusters. There's a lot of misperceptions out there about how this works and what happens. I tried to have a quantum healing session, but he couldn't hypnotize me. That's a tough sentence for somebody like me to hear, because I've spent 11 years trying to dispel what's actually going on here. And but I go over all of these things, and I put together in this group of videos the things that there's been thousands of us now who've gone through the quantum healers community, who exchange information. We give the same advice over and over again. There's a couple new ones though, and one is I love this. I will be releasing it on the 4th of July. It's the 4th video, which is water. And anyone who has had a BQH session or has taken the BQH course knows how important that water is in a session. Your body is like a battery, and your practitioner's body is like a battery. And there are practitioners to this day who make sure they don't drink water before a session because they don't want to get up and interrupt the session during the client's hypnotized state. They're ready for the client to need to use the restroom, but they don't want to complicate things by themselves getting to use the restroom. And it's like, no, drink more water. You need to be connected. This connects you to higher levels. And with you and your client both being hydrated, the combination of that is amazing. So there's some new information in these Get Ready videos, but I do start out, Shane, and your beautiful audience, by saying this. None of it is required information, tips, or anything. As we all know, amazing sessions have happened with absolutely zero preparation. off the cuff, no problem. You don't have to study. There's not a thing you have to get through. It may just turn out brilliantly without doing anything. But there's some of you out there, and I know it because you guys have been sending me emails, who have sessions and you're like, wait, and you weren't real happy about it. Some of you have had a less than wonderful, happy, fulfilling experience. You know, take a listen to these very short videos, because there might be something in there that you can adjust that will allow you to have, another opportunity and have a more satisfying session. So
I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that surprised me is how different each session is. I mean, there's hardly any, I mean, the information might come out that jives with other sessions, and it's like now this whole dragon energy's come up in 3 sessions. I'm like, what? What's up with this dragon energy? So I need to look into that. But you see these common like themes that run through the energy that come through the session because of that. And even between with the same person, these sessions are completely different. So somebody might have a session one week, a few weeks later they have one, and it is like a different person. It's a completely different session. Yep. So, I mean, even within the person, I don't really expect it to ever be the same. I'm always ready for whatever because, you know, even as a practitioner, me having expectations can harm the process. So I'm just open, and I leave it open for the higher guides to step in. They do the journey, and I'm just trying to help facilitate it, you know. Yep. And it's liberating when you realize that you don't have to do anything. As the practitioner or the client, just get out of the way, really, you know what I mean?
You know, it's for people who love exploring like this, and many, you know, quantum healers like to go have their own sessions because they love the work, you know, and they go have sessions with different practitioners. And when I think back to, you know, I've had about 13, 14 of these in the last 11 years, the different people that I had sessions with and how they manifested and what it was like even internally for me, because you're just one component again, right? You know, it's like a chemistry experiment. Your energy plus the practitioner's energy, their intentions, your intentions coming together. And it's going to, even if you did that same session for whatever reason in another timeline with a different practitioner that day, they would be different sessions. Guaranteed, you know, just guaranteed, the combination of the energies. But I say this in the series as well, but I'd be really happy to say this again, especially for those of you out there. And I know a lot of you say, you know, I really want a session, but I can't afford it. I really want a session. I can't afford it. Well, there's all kinds of brand new practitioners who, many of them, as a matter of fact, most of them start by offering free sessions for practice. Mm-hmm. And when they, many of them are so excited and so new, even if they stumble a little, even if they flip their pages of procedures a little bit and aren't very smooth, just because, you know, they're learning. Right. Their excitement about the possibilities is a marvelous energy for you as a client to connect with. Much better energy than, say, and I'm going to, you know, let's just say, I don't know any of them, but like a jaded maybe practitioner, or a practitioner who's tired, or maybe who's just overwhelmed with other things, or wants to retire, or is taking extra sessions beyond their energy level to pay bills, and they're just wanting to get them done or whatever. That's not great energy, even if they've done thousands of sessions. You want someone whose energy is going to support you and your intention.
I'm glad you said that, because I made a comment the other day, and I don't want somebody to take it wrong. I said that doing sessions, I don't think I could do more than one a day. And it's really what you're just pointing out, because it's so important for me to be at the top notch, you know, vibration and state of mind and all of that. And I think I would just be too weary to do a second one in the same day. So, you know, even it can seem kind of tiring to do them like back to back each day, but not too tiring, you know what I mean? But my session, actually, I didn't post my own session. I had a wonderful session with Debbie Hazelton, which you guys know, I've had her on. Yeah. It was really cool. I almost felt like, I was surprised at how it was for me, because I kind of thought, I'm like, I'll probably go deep, I don't know. But I was, you know, I let it go. I didn't hang on to any expectations, but I wondered, you know, because I get highway hypnosis when I drive and stuff, and I thought, I bet I'll go out really quick and easy. But I was almost ultra aware. It was so strange. It was like I was ultra aware of my surroundings, the surroundings. I could hear the birds like over the, at Debbie's place when she was doing it. She was out on her porch, and I was so ultra aware. I was more aware than like when I'm like, just like now. I felt so tuned into the, you know what I mean? Just so receptive.
Yeah.
And it started coming through, and it wasn't even like visuals like you see in a dream. It was more like knowings. It was very different than I expected, but I'm glad I didn't hold on to. Yeah,
you're giving
yeah, I'm
me
getting chills
goosebumps
now.
because you know what, my own guides are screaming in my ears right now as you're talking. I wish you could see the hairs on my arm. They're standing straight up. They're saying embodiment. This is embodiment.
Right.
You've embodied it. So we
Yeah.
still have this sort of idea that we're going to lift up and visit something, which is something whatever. And what you're describing right there is like this it's embodiment, which is kind of what we're talking about with ascension. It's bringing these higher everything into this physical form. And for me, it's happening a lot, not with my eyes so much, but with my ears, especially in the early mornings. Do you know that I spend most of my early mornings, even if I'm alone, with earplugs in? Because the smallest thing, I still hear through them all. I hear all the birds. I hear the dog's toenails on the carpet. I hear everything. And I kind of have to tone it down because I'm so hyper sensitive to some of that stuff. It tends to wear down through the rest of the day, which I know it's funny because I'm naturally kind of a loud person too. I know that too. But that I think is also a type of embodiment. And I'm so glad that you all mentioned Debbie, that you mentioned Debbie too, because I want you all out there, Shane's audience, you've heard Debbie, you've seen Debbie, but she's a fantastic facilitator in her own right. And any of you who might want to have a really great session might want to contact Debbie. She's astonishing. She really gets it. You know what I mean? From the very beginning, she gets it. And
she feels so much like family too, just like you. When I get with her, I feel energized and we have synchronicities all the time with the emails and numbers and all sorts of things. But I did want to point that out about the ultra awareness thing, because I've had several people like at the beginning, tell me what you see or whatever. They're like, I just kind of still feel awake. And that's like the first thing. And I'm like, you might, just go with what you see and go with it, and they'll work with whatever you got. But I felt ultra awake. So don't feel like you're going to feel like you're asleep or out of it, or you're not going to remember when it gets to the point of talking, because every single person is different.
You just don't know. And one of the things when we've talked about expectations, here's the thing. It's kind of like meditating. Some people think meditating is you get rid of all of your thoughts. Well, good luck with that. It just kind of doesn't happen, right? The idea,
Right.
Meditation's tomorrow on our Get Ready Day, by the way. And we talk a little bit about what it is and why it's important. It's not what you think often. It's mostly you trying to slow your thoughts down. I mean, that's just it, bottom line. But same with expectations. So if there are people who will say, I'm coming into this session without expectations. Okay, here's what I got to say about that. I'm happy to hear those words come out of you, but if you're a human, you will have some expectations. You will. You just will. You almost can't help it.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, I had them, but I was okay with letting them go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The idea is that we're going to look at them, or that you'll see them or whatever, or you'll acknowledge them as they come up, and you'll go, my goodness, why that is an expectation. I mean, here's an example of an expectation for me. When I think it was my 11th session, my 10th or 11th session, and I'm an artist. I'm very visual. I've been fantastically visual 10 sessions in, and on my 11th session, somebody was doing Dolores' method, I believe. I come off the cloud and there's just gray soup, and I'm waiting for last 10 times I did this, Technicolor kind of thing, nothing. And I remember going, so this is what my clients see when they see that. And so even though I had my practitioner telling me something over here, there's a part of me that's well, what would you tell a practitioner who's it was very interesting. Talk about being multidimensional in your head.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to worry about the fact that I'm in this gray soup. I'm going to let the information come however it's going to come. And that was, for me, it was an exercise in, here's how downloads work, honey. Here's how downloads work. You don't need to see anything. It doesn't need to be attached to a story. You don't need to hear any words, see any flashing lights, have a presence of anybody doing anything. It's just whomp. And it comes like in these combined packet things, and in download it. You know, for those of you out there who don't know what a download is, I maybe I didn't know what one was until then either. Just remain open. When you remain open to sort of, I wonder what that would be like for me, instead of, I don't know what that is. I don't know what they're talking about. They must be making that up, or that doesn't happen to me. That's a different way of looking at it than, that's interesting. I wonder how that might feel if I had a download. Do you know, a genuine feeling like that can have the effect of calling it into your life and having an amazing thing happen to you very quickly. There's a real difference in those two vibrations. And you know the toroidal field, right? Mm-hmm. Those of you out there know the toroidal field. When you have a thought, it enters into this field that goes out like this, and it expands like this. It goes out into, into reality. Mm-hmm. Your practitioner's toroidal field also comes this way, right? And then they come together, and it's the combination of those toroidal fields. Mm-hmm. So that's why your thoughts matter. They're like little debris in tornadoes. They affect each other. And when
thoughts are imaginationist thoughts, I might add in there, to state the obvious. When people say it's just your imagination, that's really, thoughts create things.
Yes, they're very, very powerful. Gosh, this has been really great talking to you. I
was going to say one other thing about, what was it? Oh, it slipped my mind. It was something helpful. It'll come back to me.
It will come to you. It will come to you. I want everyone out there, first off, to join me in thanking Shane for being my number one fan, truly. And I don't know if our mutual friend Lauren Hansen catches your show any longer, but Lauren, if you are listening, bless you, thank you for, I can still hear your voice in my head. Mm-hmm. I'd really love it if you'd contact my friend Shane Robinson. I'm like, okay, I don't know who he is, but sure, why not? And what a gift that has been for me, for BQH, for our community, and really for the world. The number of people that you connect with by your beautiful show, and all the wonderful things that you do. Throughout my life, as I even go through just my life, when I catch your show, I tend to put it on, and sometimes I can only catch pieces of it before my Wi-Fi or whatever. But I put together my last chicken coop completely listening to your shows.
Oh, awesome.
Your shows. Now when I go to this chicken coop, and it's a very cute chicken coop, it's got this beautiful green, and it's got, anyway, this beautiful, very cute chicken coop. And I go there, and it's like, you know what? My chicken coop is imbued with the beautiful stories and connections that I've heard in your show. Every time I walk up to the chicken coop, my chicken coop glows with unbiased and on the fence.
On the fence, how funny is that?
Isn't that crazy? But it's true. And I got most of it done, and most of the painting done the day that you did a show where you talked a lot about the Bible passages and about how, that some people say that you weren't really that much of a Christian, but then you quote all this stuff. And I learned so much from you that day, and so many people called in, and it was a long show. I think it was like a 3-hour show, dude.
Probably Friday Night Love Stream, yeah.
That's what it was. I got the majority of my chicken coop done at that time. And my chicken coop is just filled with the love of your channel and your audience and your beautiful self. So.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I am so honored to be a part of this. I mean, I see how it's helping so many people. And if anybody has like the experience I've had with it as a practitioner, which I want to remind you guys, if you do feel led to get into that, I do have a promo code. It's already a reasonable price, but you can save an additional 10%. And it just came to me.
Good.
The energy that we talked about, there's a lot that goes on behind the scene. A lot of people receive like such a release, emotionally. So if you feel like you're going to cry in a session, if you're a client and you feel like you're going to cry, let it go, let it come out, and don't feel embarrassed about it, because it happens quite a bit. I've had laughter and tears, and so much is going on that you don't see or hear in the audio. So just go with it.
That's where water comes in again. When you cry, it's a physical, if you would look at the molecular structure of your tears when you let it come out, when you say release, it's physically releasing when you
Absolutely.
cry, or when you're using the restroom, or later, right? So you let it all go. And some people, I don't know if you've had this happen yet, but some people really sweat, in sessions. They can really let a lot of body moisture out, and that's another way of releasing.
Right, so you can really get dehydrated if you're not drinking enough water.
Right.
Yeah, April was talking about that. She was like, I got so sweaty. She didn't remember part of her session. She goes, I woke up sweaty. She sent me a text because it got to the end of the session and I didn't realize we had disconnected.
I
And
remember that
that's
one.
so funny that she just woke up. I tell people, don't worry.
Yeah.
Here she is. She didn't even remember what was going on. So she was out. And she still woke up and texted me. So there's
It's just
nothing
like
to
going
worry
to
about.
sleep.
Yeah. And then it seems like the higher self will wake them up.
Of course.
Yeah,
that's the way it works. And they'll take care of you. It reminds me a little bit like this. It's like the highway hypnosis, the driving. You can just be driving along, but if somebody tries to cut into your lane, and you've got to take control and do an evasive action, and your heart, and you come back in and you take care of business, and then they turn off, and you go, well, goodbye, dude, and then you go right back to it. It's the same.
It's exactly the same thing. But, I can totally see why people think, I'll be hypnotized, I'll be stuck there forever. And I can see how your imagination would be, but it's not that way at all.
Another myth buster. That's day 6 for you. So
yeah. I forgot to mention, you said that you have different languages I think that was important. What languages do you have?
So right now we are busy working on translating the BQH course in multiple languages. That's a very long, very laborious process. You might imagine. We've been working on that for many, many months now. But what we have already for you in this series of Get Ready videos, which are 10 videos, we already have them with subtitles. So they're subtitled in English for people who need help by reading. We have German, French, and Spanish. So right now, anyone who speaks any of those languages can click on the little link in the YouTube, and it's already translated, the 10 tips for you here, which I am so excited about. I'm so excited about, especially the French people. Because, the French people are waking up, the yellow vests and stuff. This is all part of it. The French people are like BQH, and I get emails almost every day from somebody in France or Paris in particular, and they're very excited.
Even Canada has a lot of French-speaking people,
Yeah, a lot of those people. So we're very excited about all of them. But there's other languages too. I'm working with a couple ladies in Japan. There's some unique issues there, as you might imagine. And I'm even talking I've got a meeting next week with a longtime practitioner of our forum who is valiantly assisting in getting this. Can you believe this? Getting the course and hopefully these 10 videos out very soon in Croatian. So I'm hoping really, I had this idea that I'm going to make these videos. I wanted to do something special for BQH's first birthday. And there's a lot of things we're working on behind the scenes, but when it came down to it, it's like, what do we as practitioners do? What have we been doing for 11 years? And that is helping other clients. And we've learned, these are the things we've learned. Thousands of us have talked about it. We've learned and put it together, combined it and distilled it down. The best that you can do to get yourself ready for a session are these 10 videos. So quantumhealers.com/get-ready, or there's a link there if you just go to the homepage. But
I had a link to the description to that exact page too.
Yeah, thanks. So there's 2 videos up later today, one every day, the rest of this week and into next week. it'll be done on the 9th.
Well, awesome. So happy birthday to BQH. It's grown so well in the first year. Yeah. It's done so well, and if it can just continue with this momentum that it's got going here, it's going to, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey.
I'm real excited. And the reports back of people and the unique ways that they're doing it is astonishing. And I actually have somebody right now who's working with somebody who's deaf with a translator, doing sign language. So that's an interesting, thing. The idea is to open this world up to everybody without limitations, without anybody's limitations.
Is there a way for deaf people to do a session?
Well, think about it. Deaf people, most people close their eyes. So if deaf people close their eyes, they don't have this and they don't have this. So you have to think about it a little differently. That doesn't mean that that doesn't mean deaf people can't dream or that deaf people can't daydream, right? But if they're going to use a facilitator, they're going to have to do it with eyes open. So it's a little different. And I'm just learning about that too. But I think I'm so excited about it. This is breaking new ground in a lot of different ways. And I just couldn't be happier.
Yeah, me neither. Well, awesome. I know you've got a busy day ahead of you and so much going on. So check out these videos. You say 2 of them are out. Two of them
are out. And I'm creating a playlist on our YouTube channel. But if you go to quantumhealers.com, there's a link right there on top. And those will be there all on that one page, on that Get Ready page. They'll always be there. So, if it's not something you need right now, it may be something you might want to check out sometime in the future. Or if
somebody's watching this in the future.
Right. Yep.
You can still head on over there.
Yeah, you can.
It's always a pleasure, Candace. Thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure to call you friend and to be so connected with Dolores Cannon's energy and everything. I feel her come through all the time, by the way. I feel like I know her because of that and reading her books and everything. So really, it's just a pleasure to know you and call you friend. And I want to thank you for coming on here.
Thank you so much, Shane. Blessings to you and all of your audience.
Thank you so much. Lots of love and light to you guys watching now and later. And we'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. Peace. If you'd like to support the work I do, go to paypal.me/UOTF. Thanks.